Hello again, Jim Dowson here, your guest presenter with the Daily Templar Report. How are you all? Nice to see he's in the room. Now today we've got Mr. Griffin with us. We'll bring him in a wee minute just to make sure he's here. You there, Mr. Griffin?
I am indeed, yes,
Okay,
Joe.
we'll just bring you in a wee second. Now, let me just see who's on this thing. Oh. Okay, let's see then. Yep, I was getting a wee bit of feedback. Was that what it was? Lady Rotha, how you doing? William Petit, God bless you there in West Virginia. Who else have we got? Conrad Broom, yep. B. Campbell, McSherry B, Ewan Eggerstrom, Ryan McGinley, Gary Hardwick, Ralph Rowley, Jonathan Bodine, how you doing? You and your good lady. Niles, Andy, how you doing? Andy, how you doing? Nice to see you in the room. Colette Whitney, lovely Colette. EMS Rejuvenation, Chris, how you doing, Chris? Scott Rash, Malcolm Cook, Henrik Johansson, Bartley Burker, Naomi Ford, Paul Telford there in Liverpool. Yep, Malcolm Cook. Yeah, all the gangs in there. Telepathic Swan, Jacob Lewis. Let's see, what's he saying there actually? Oh yes, Martin Butler, Elliot Lamb, Troy Otto there in Florida, William Mumford, Les Androchovich, Greg Howarth, how you doing? Geminis Fortuminous, how are you, sir? Brian Payton, Chris White, Stuart Bowden, yeah, Joseph Taylor, Burt Myers, Lady Matriarch, yep, Mega Zanu, I don't know what that is, Bruce Samuelson, Karen and Sharon, how you doing? God bless you too, hope you are getting on okay. That's about it. I see some in here, yes, Smiley, Lady Rotha, yeah, some of them are in the Purge thing as well, very good. Okay, Michael McGuffin, Antonio Rebello, yeah, okay, Kim YY. Now remember, Purge, good reason for it, because what was that thing that went down last night? BitChute went completely offline because somebody deplatformed one of their integral systems inside their platform. They're back up again, but they'll be gone soon. Again. It's Cloudflare that kicked them out. But they'll be gone again soon because they're under lawsuits and all this nonsense. They will be gone soon. So we're not stupid. That's why we've put up pods of people saying, go to BitChute. Have you seen the two guys that run BitChute? Two English lefty wallies. And they won't stand any kind of pressure, I can assure you of that. They ain't going to go to jail for the cause. Now, just before we get started, and especially in light of today and what's going on, I want to read you a wee bit of Proverbs. It is Proverbs 20, verse 17. Bread of deceit is sweet to a man, but afterward his mouth shall be filled with gravel. Amen. I mean, the Lord bless this, the public reading of his infallible, inerrant, and inspired word. And God bless each and every one of you. Well, we're going to go into today. There's only one big story in town, isn't there, really? But before I bring Mr. Griffin in to talk a wee bit about it, I just want to read you this thing out here. Now, this is from Pennsylvania's Attorney General. He is the arbiter of the election process in that state. His name is General Josh Shapiro, a Democrat. And he put up on social media, he claimed that he got himself into trouble in social media after claiming that President Trump has lost the ability to win the battleground state. Just over 24 hours before the polls close on election day. I quote, this is what he said, this is what Attorney General Josh Shapiro said. If all the votes are added up in PA, Trump is going to lose, Shapiro wrote on Twitter. That's why he's working overtime to subtract as many votes as possible from the process. And he goes on to say, for the record, he's 0-6 against us in court. He said, we have protected voting rights. Now ignore the noise, vote. How's that for fairness, impartiality, and a decent democratic man charged with the electoral process? More or less he's saying, doesn't matter what happens, he ain't going to win the state, he's going to lose. Great. Mr. Griffin, would you like to come in and tell us what you're thinking about this whole election thing today?
I certainly will, Jim. Well, you'll probably see from what I'm wearing what I think about it, because this is the last few hours of something approaching freedom and democracy in the United States of America. This election is being stolen.
Yeah.
That's as simple as that. That's the long and the short of it. Yeah. Now, if we look at what's going on, first of all, there is a really interesting side story, the extent to which the polls yet again got it terribly wrong. You know, they were showing a swamping victory for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and self-evidently that hasn't happened. Now, why is that? Well, of course, they were, 4% out last time, 4 years ago, with the quiet or the hidden Trump voters, just as they were significantly out, of course, with Brexit. So why? Well, because even 4 years ago, you had to have a little bit of moral courage to tell a pollster, someone on the phone you didn't know, or someone on the street you didn't know, that you were going to vote for Donald Trump. Because Trump and Trump ideas were already quite heavily demonized. But which accounts for the 4% last time. So obviously this time it was going to get much, much more inaccurate, because if you look, instead of just a little bit of demonization, you've had Trump voters and supporters literally physically attacked in the street, including being beaten or shot to death. You've had people who are voting for Trump sacked from their jobs, threatened in all sorts of ways, dragged through the courts. So obviously there was a lot of people who wanted to vote, who were going to vote for Trump, would not tell a pollster. So that's why they were so inaccurate. Would you go along with that, Jim?
Absolutely. I mean, it's crazy stuff. I mean, it's like the pressure you were under and the party the BNP were under. I mean, it's still at this day, if you're a prison officer, work for the civil servants or any kind of church, you're not allowed to be a member of the BNP, and if you're caught voting for them, you're out in your ear. I mean, this is systematic. You've put up with it for years,
Yep.
I've put up with it for years. The Americans are getting a taste of it, and they don't really know what's happening to them, because America's always been a good, decent, WASP-type country. Well, welcome to our world. Welcome to the European model of socialism. They will beat, intimidate, and kill you, rather than go by the rules. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely so. Now, having said that, this isn't all fraud. It was absolutely inevitable that Trump was going to do better in the votes on the day, the ballot box votes, and that then when the postal votes, the mail-in votes, ballots as they're called in the United States, forgive me, Americans, I had to call them postal votes because that's deep inside my head. Nothing I can do about it because that's what we call them over here. But when I say postal votes, I mean for you mail-in ballots. So it was obvious that the Democrats, once those were counted, were going to claw back a lot of votes. Why? Not fraud, but simply because the Democrats in in America, the Labour Party to a lesser degree, the Lib Dems in Britain, and all the leftist parties all over Europe, they're better at getting postal votes harvested than the Conservatives are, for a couple of reasons. One, they work very hard. Their people are absolutely committed. And they know that if they can get their people to have postal votes, if it pours down with rain, then what Jim was saying, you were saying, Jim, yesterday, happens in the Brexit election when there was a heaven-sent torrential thunderstorm over Remain London. The same thing can't happen if all the people have got postal votes. So the left work very hard to get them. And when they discover a new technique to get a few more people to give them postal votes, then they discover that in one place, and straight away NGOs funded mainly by George Soros get onto the job of teaching this best practice to every left liberal election machine in the entire Western world. So they do a very good job at that. So that was always going to happen. But what's happened and is happening in America right now, because this election hasn't been stolen, it's being stolen as we speak. What's happening in the US now shows that this goes far beyond just the fact that it's the Democrats are better at this best practice. If we can have, please, Mr. Techie, the graph that you showed me from Michigan. Let's have a look at this. This shows the votes of the graph, please, first. The one that you had. That's the beastie, right then. And you can see here, this was the race in Michigan as the votes are steadily counted, and both sides' votes are going up as more votes go through the tellers and are counted. But you can see where the arrow is pointing, that all of a sudden there's an incredible leap, literally straight up of Biden votes. And now if we can go to the first of the two following slides. So this one shows that with 77.3% of the vote, Donald Trump had 2,200,902 votes, leaving Joe Biden behind him with 1,992,356 and a lesser figure for the other three candidates. So there we are. There's Trump comfortably in the lead in Michigan with 77% of the votes counted. And look again at his total, 2,200,902 902. It's a big number, so just remember, everyone, the 902. So now if we go to what happens when it goes up from 77% counted to, I think it's 79% counted. Next slide, 79.8% counted it is. So there we have Joe Biden's votes have gone up over 130,000. But look at Donald Trump's votes, 2,200,902, which, if your memory is very good, is exactly the same number of votes that Donald Trump got, with 3% of the votes fewer counted, before Joe Biden's votes went up by more than 130,000. And if you had time to look at the votes of the other three candidates, just like Donald Trump's votes, those also do not go up by a single vote. So with over 130,000 extra votes counted, only one candidate had any extra votes. All the others didn't have a single one. So I've dealt, Jim, with, as you know, postal votes and ballot box votes in first the National Front, but then the British National Party. And in fact, even before then, as a young Conservative activist, I've been involved in elections since 1974. And I've watched personally at dozens and dozens of counts where you've had the ballot box votes and then you've had the postal votes opened as well. And I've spoken and I've been there live on the phone getting reports from hundreds of different counts. And I can tell you, as I said before, that the left harvest postal votes much better than the Conservatives, with the result that always, when the postal votes come in, there is this swamping number of extra postal votes. But it's absolutely impossible for 130,000 votes for it to be 100% for one candidate. That, I've never come across it. It simply cannot be, because people make mistakes. And also because a lot of these postal votes are simply from the people who voted early in the US system. And it's impossible for everyone who voted early to have voted for one candidate. So this is only explicable through fraud. Either because those ballots have been manufactured when they've worked out how many extra ones they need, or because they've had the Republican postal votes the minority, but they've been taken out. And I was looking just earlier on, I've got it written down here, a headline, military overseas mail-in ballots found dumped in the trash in Lucerne County, Pennsylvania. Now there's only 9 votes that they found, and they say 7 of those were for Donald Trump. So it's a tiny number. But that's a tiny number just in one place. And I'll tell you what's going on here. As Joseph Stalin said, it's not the people who vote that count, it's the people who count the votes. And that's what's going on here. Because if you think, all those postal votes have gone into town halls, into the hands of town hall bureaucrats.
Lefties. So
these are the middle class. Well, you know exactly what kind of people these are. In Britain, they would all be members of the assorted trade unions that handle public workers and so on. And they are rank leftists. And again, I know from personal experience, 2 elections, when we were standing in the British National Party I was standing in the northwest of England for the European elections. And in 2004, we had those elections, and we were fairly confident of winning a seat until we saw the vast numbers of spoilt ballots. And up and down this whole large constituency, there were thousands upon thousands of spoilt ballots, which were spoilt because they had a vote for the British National Party on them, and then a second vote had been added. And we'd also had large numbers we had people in the town halls, not counting the ballots. We had people, being a working class party, we had people in the town hall who were the janitors, the cleaners, and so on, the dinner ladies, this sort of people. And they were saying, coming back, especially from the big urban areas, where the socialists were particularly strong, just like in the USA, they were saying they were watching people come out of the place where the ballots were being stored with a wodge of British National Party ballots in their hands and then throwing them in the bin. We heard this repeatedly in those couple of weeks, and with the combination of that and the huge number of spoilt ballots, where good BNP votes have been destroyed by someone in their lunch break, just going through dozens of them and adding a vote for somebody else. And the BM, because you see these things, spoiled ballots in the British system, the candidates and their agents are allowed to go and look at them to decide, is that really spoiled? And there were, in the seat I was standing in alone, there were hundreds of BNP votes with the vote cast in all sorts of different pens, all sorts of different handwriting, small little X's, big X's, shaky X's from old ladies, determined, almost gone through the paper X's from angry young men. And the votes for the socialist challenge candidate, the real extremist, who time and time again a second vote was cast on the same ballot paper in order to invalidate them, they were very often in the same pen, the same hand, because our ballots have been destroyed. So, in the next election in 2009, we organised an effort in the northwest of England, an intense effort, massive. And we had activists go into the place where they were counting these, receiving these postal votes for the 2 weeks in which they were received, and they just sat there watching. And then we took advantage of an ancient British electoral law. We sealed the ballot boxes with our own seals. And in a number of country places where the elections were being run by decent, fair, honest civil servants, they said, oh, that's the law? Well, that's okay. That's fair enough. But in the Manchesters and the Liverpools, in the seats dominated by the hard left, by these ethnic minorities and so on, they were horrified when our people said, we're going to put our seals on these ballot boxes, because they wanted to use their own seals. And they were saying, look, what's wrong with our seals? Our seals are as good as your seals, obviously. But no, they're not, because they have an endless stock of seals. And something like that would have just gone on in the USA, where the mail-in votes for the last 2 weeks have been in the hands of socialist, hardcore leftists, all of them Democrat fanatics, who, when you consider they're prepared to beat and lie and cheat and steal and kill to get their political agenda pushed forward, why wouldn't they steal votes? Of course they're going to steal votes. These people are absolutely convinced that they are morally right. They're genuinely convinced that Trump and the Republicans are wicked, evil, neo-Nazi, fascist, racist pigs whose votes don't count. So of course they're going to steal their votes. And that is why it's not, if these postal vote mail-in ballots were showing 90%, even 95% for Biden, and the rest for Trump and the other candidates, then you could believe them. But when it's 100%, that is because this ballot has been stolen on a massive scale.
I agree with you. I've lived through it all. I've seen it. And I think our American brethren are going to be deeply, deeply shocked, because they've not really had this kind of nonsense and social craziness in America that we have in Europe. And we've had it for, I mean, look at Budapest, Hungary. You know, it's classed as a right-wing country now. Although they threw me and you in jail, Mr. Griffin.
They did indeed.
Well, you know, the main square where our priory located has been called Hitler Square, Stalin Square, Lenin Square, Franco Square. You know, in Europe, things swing wildly. In America, it's always been much of a muchness. There wasn't much of a difference between the Democrats and the Republicans, really, compared to what happens in Europe. But for the first time ever, and, you know, we've been warning, decades we've been warning people about this, the demographic catastrophe that's hit white Anglo-America is now showing. And if you think about it, you know, Texas was won, but it wasn't won by that lot. And the next election, I mean, I think it was, you know, 700,000 votes. I can absolutely guarantee you, Texas is gone. Because in the next 4 years, there'll be maybe 1 million Mexicans and other people, foreigners, on the electoral register.
Yeah.
So the writing's on the wall. Now, even if Donald Trump does manage to pull this and get it somehow, it's only a stay of execution for a wee while. But, you know, let's just wait and see. I told you the other day, I have in this envelope, what I already thought, and I'll open it tomorrow. But, you know, this is where we are, folks, and it's a reality that we have to face. And the reality is, you could be now going into socialist, a real hard-line socialist government in America, and then you'll be part of our world. And I don't want to be disrespectful to my American brethren, because, you know, I love you very much, and I'm very close to you because you're my people. But there's always been a naivety with Americans when talking about politics, because you've no conception of what you're in store for. None whatsoever. You ain't seen nothing yet, as you guys say over there. You ain't seen nothing yet. if Biden carries this and gets in, oh my goodness, the lockdown that we're suffering, you cannot go out in the streets in Europe at the moment. You're being arrested. This lockdown, you're going to get hit with. Your taxes are going to go through the roof. The scum of the earth are going to be elevated, and the guns are going to be grabbed. You've no idea. You've no idea what's coming to you. So may God bless each and every one of you, and God strengthen you. Would you agree with that, Mr. Griffin?
I would indeed, Jim. Now, I'm sure that a lot of our American brethren watching this will be saying, but why are you calling this so early? Not all over. Donald's still got many opportunities. He's already said that this is fraud and he's going to take it to the Supreme Court. Twitter, as I'm sure everyone knows, has already censored that. But I think it's so widely understood among even not particularly political conservatives with a small c what big tech is now like, that doesn't necessarily count so much. But people are going to think, no, Trump will go to court and he'll get this fraud overturned. It'll all be all right. No, I'm afraid not. Because he's going to, yes, there's theoretically a conservative majority there now, but these are Beltway conservatives. These are establishment conservatives, and the Republican establishment hates Donald Trump. The best example of this is you've got the Attorney General, William Barr, a Trump appointee, supposedly a Republican, who has done everything he possibly can to protect Antifa, to do down Donald Trump, and to make sure that things go the way that the Republican elite want them to go. And Donald Trump is so surrounded by traitors, particularly at the higher level of the Republican Party, that when it comes down to it, you mark my words, when it comes down to it, the Republican majority of Republicans in the places of power that count, they will back the Biden-Kamala Harris victory. They will condemn Donald Trump for questioning it, and you will end up with a vast mob of leftists, a Washington Maidan, camped outside the Supreme Court, camped outside the White House, and rioting all over the place. And under the pressure of those riots, they intend, and I fear they will succeed, in simply forcing Donald Trump from office. And the idea that the court system or the police or the army are going to stand by Donald Trump, I'm afraid is not the case. Again, the upper echelons of the army were utterly purged by Barack Obama of anyone who didn't go along with his agenda. And Donald Trump hasn't done enough, hasn't been able to a degree, because he's only one man. He hasn't got some kind of revolutionary ideological force with him. He hasn't got people he can rely on. He hasn't been able to undo that. So I don't know how long it's going to take, but that is where we are going to go. Donald Trump, I believe, will be forced from office. This election will be stolen. And then the pain for the United States really is going to begin.
I believe it. I just see an old friend there popped up. Neil, how you doing, Neil? Hope you're doing all right. Hope the family's all right. Give my regards to them all up there in the promised land. Nice to see you, brother. Changed times, but it doesn't get any better, does it? People might not be shooting at each other now in these streets. Well, people are shooting at us. The jihadis are shooting at us, but you know what I mean. But America now is in for a rough time. And you know, when these socialists get in power, we lived through it here in Northern Ireland, where Marxists pretending to be hardline Christians fighting other people who they thought were, you know, same as the civil rights nonsense in America. Now they're just openly, they don't pretend to be Christians, they just say, well, you know, we're socialists, we're Marxists, we're looking for a progressive future. That's what you're in store for. Now, one of the first things they will do, they'll accelerate immigration into America, and I mean accelerate it. Tony Blair brought millions in in 10 years. I don't know how many come in, 5-6 million. We're a wee country, well, compared to you guys. They will bring in 20, 30, 40, 50 million Somalis, Mexicans, Africans. That's their stock and trade. They're doing it in Ireland. Holy Catholic Ireland now is a multicultural cesspit. Ireland now, 30% of every kid in school in the Republic of Ireland is a foreigner. Ireland has fallen. And that's how they've done it, just flooding the country.
Can I just say, Jim, can I just say as well that when you're absolutely right, they will have the amnesty, and then they'll bring in huge numbers of extra. And the new ones, you watch, they will not be put in the blue states. They will be pushed into the red states for two reasons. One is because this is a giant gerrymandering operation, a giant electoral fraud to make sure that the Democrats never again lose office. but also because it's not just about beating us by votes. It's by It's by breeding us out of existence. And we've got the same thing as the Kudinov-Kalergi plan. We've got the same thing in every single country in Europe. These people are brought in not just to sway the votes, so that their kids go to school with our kids, so that our kids marry or have kids with their kids, so the white man and the Christian is got rid of forever. That is the plan, and that's what is now coming the way of the United States.
There's no doubt about it. And, you know, being a Brit, I can sympathise. My friends are saying that Belfast has fallen. Yeah, Belfast, bastion of Britishness, is totally fallen to socialist, communist rule. And I can sympathise with Americans, because you're probably going through what we went through about 20 years ago, or maybe even longer. Because we were the British, we had an empire far bigger than the influence America had. We had an empire. We ruled a quarter of the Earth's surface. We were the big cheese right up until the Second World War. Our navy held sway across the world. And all of a sudden, it was gone from us. And it took us a long time. And I remember we were so much in the doldrums. And when the Falklands War started, I remember we were humiliated people. We were humiliated people after 50 years of socialism. And when Maggie Thatcher went to war with the Argentinians, I remember I was only a young fella, 17. I went down with 5,000 people from my area, from Airdrie and Coatbridge in central Scotland. 5,000 teenagers we tried to sign up. The sense of pride, and we had again getting us out of that. But the 50, 60 years we had gone down and down and down, and the degradation we felt and the humiliation we felt, sadly, America's going to feel like that, because at the moment you still feel like we felt. We are Britain, we are America, we are the top dogs. They ain't going to be the top dogs. China's going to be the top dogs. Russia's maybe going to be number 2, and all this kind of carry on. America will slip down in second place, third place, fourth place, fifth place. India, Singapore, all these other places will be above you. And that is what socialism brings to you. Can it be halted? Not really, because they will flood your country with tens of millions of people. So the breeding, the ethnic rate, all that stuff won't last. As Nick says, they'll mix up the races. Look, I know a brother on here right now actually took exception to us and thought we're racist. We're not racist, but we've seen what race mixing does. Now, that, obviously, it's fine. Two people love each other. Fine, no problem. Yeah. But you have to have some rules. And when you have rules, some people lose out. And when you mix people up, it never works well, because it's been done deliberately for a purpose to utterly destroy people of our ethno background. And that's it. Now, that's not me being a racist pointing that out. I'm telling you, that's what Soros and the socialists and the cultural Marxists want to do. So we have to be very careful that we retreat behind the wall. Is that wall going to exclude good people? Yes, it is. But you either have the wall or we all die.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not for any government to interfere in affairs of the heart. It's impossible and it's wrong, obviously. But there's a huge difference between simply leaving us all sort of side by side, and then there'd be a bit of mixing. Some people do, some people don't. But if you look at the adverts on the television, every single one shows race mixing. Everyone.
Epidemic.
If you listen, say to Sky TV, to the sports adverts and so on, every single voice is what they now call multicultural.
They
London
don't do it
English.
with gay couples, Nick. They don't do it with gay couples. Gay couples are normally monocultural. They're either white or black. They don't do it with them. It's only, heterosexual couples are always mixed.
Yep, largely so. These things are not accidental, because the aim isn't just to have us living side by side. You can live side by side. It happens in India, it happens in Lebanon, it happens in Syria, it happens in a lot of multicultural societies, and generally speaking, each ethno-religious group sticks to its own, and they trade together, they play football together and so on, but their kids generally marry within their own group. But in the Western world, that's not where we are. We are in a point where we're deliberately mixed together, and then there's a deliberate artificial social engineering process going on to make sure that we are bred out of existence. It's literally genocidal. Actually, it's not just genocidal against us. I've met very often with older West Indians, and for years they complained they're being whited out. Yeah. Is how they described it. Because they also didn't want to have their kids mixed. Sikh friends of mine, we get on very well, but they want their sons and their daughters to marry Sikhs. So it's not about racism or hatred or anything similar. It's the natural human way, and it's being deliberately forced out of us. And the United States of America, you're going to see this in absolute spades over the next few years. That's really the least of your worries. The first key thing is that the minute the Democrats have actually forced Trump out of office, as I now am almost sure that they will, and even if he were to call out the American people, well, how's he going to do that? Because everyone communicates, and his call to arms will be communicated through Facebook, through Twitter. It can be banned. So whatever he does, it's not going to work. It's going to be beaten. So the Democrats are going to take over. The first thing they will do, apart from persecuting Trump and anyone who dares to stand with him, is to absolutely smash the First Amendment. And then the second thing they will do is, on the back, there will obviously be isolated, understandable, sporadic outbursts of violence by people who are shocked at seeing their system and their president stolen from them. And those outbursts of violence will be used as an excuse to disarm, not everybody. They won't say we're going for the Second Amendment. They'll say that because there's been radical far-right violence, we have to disarm the radical far-right. So they'll go for the Nazis, they'll go for the extremists, they'll go for the pro-life lobby, they'll go for the hardline Christians, and they will say, we're not touching anybody else. And slice by slice by slice, they will destroy the Second Amendment. These people are Leninists. And Lenin, one of his most famous dictums, he was a brilliant, wicked man, a brilliant strategist and tactician. And he asked the Bolsheviks in the very early stages of the Bolshevik coup against the Russian Christians, he asked them rhetorically, how do you eat a large salami? Well, they looked. He said, slice by slice by slice. And that is what they will do. They've already done to the First Amendment. That is what they are now going to do to the Second American Amendment and to American freedom. And that, I'm afraid, is what's coming down the line now very fast at our brothers and sisters in the USA.
It is, and I think that's well said. And talk about wiping people out. Nick, I watched a film about a strike in 1970 in Leeds. Do you remember Leeds had a massive black population? Go to Leeds now, they're gone. They have been bred out of existence. It's not just a white thing. And I watched that film last night, and I thought, wow, look at all the black people in Leeds. There's none now. They've been completely bred out. 4 generations, they're gone. So this isn't just aimed at us, it's aimed at everybody. But listen, we're going to have to wind up here. I just seen a good friend of mine from the old days. He's cut short because he's away to Bible class. God bless you, Neil. And great to see you right with our Lord. And I'm so pleased with that. It's a guy I knew from the old bad days, if you know what I mean, in Belfast. And the fella now is a Christian and he's away to Bible class, and he's far better going there than listening to the ramblings of us. But listen, I just want to finish because it is a serious thing. We don't want to sound defeatist, folks, but look, why do you think we wrote this book? Why do you think we rushed this book out even though we're in the middle of a building project? Because we had an idea that all this stuff was coming down the line, and this is why we've wrote Deus Vult, Reconquista of the West, the handbook for resisting the Great Replacement, and that's why we rushed this book out. We ain't joking. We've seen this. We know it was coming down your way, our American brethren, and may God defend you and God strengthen you. I just want to read this book because we will have to go, but it's from the chapter called, you'll know this, Mr. Griffin, Be a Man, page 263. Focusing on great issues will help you to bury your own petty issues and to overcome your own selfish little fears. When I was a young teenager, my father took me to one side and told me this. Son, your name is not yours. It is mine. I received it from my father. I have protected it, and it is known and respected in circles far and wide. So you now enter the world of a man with a name known for fidelity, honesty, and honour for countless generations. All of this now is combined in you. It is up to you to pass it on without blemish or dishonour to your son. Do not let down your ancestors. Do not fail your prosperity. When all is said and done, and no matter rich or poor, the finest gift a father gives to his son is a name untainted by shame, cowardice, dishonesty, or disgrace. If you can do this, you are a man, and no force in earth can ever rob you of such an achievement. Amen. And Deus Vult. So if you haven't got this book yet, I'm telling you, you're going to have to get it while it's still allowed to be sent to America, because soon it won't. Because they do all this. They're censorship maniacs. They say free speech, we're the fascists. No. These people are genuine, absolute, crazed, mad people for censoring people and shutting anybody up. You've seen it. They've beat people, they've shot people dead in the streets during this election campaign.
Absolutely.
So they will ban everything.
Yeah.
They're the book burners. They're the book burners.
Yes. Jude, can I just say one more thing before we finish? Because I can imagine many of us, especially our American brethren, sitting out like this, and no, and thinking we've just given them this giant black pill. And I'm going to say I don't think this is a black pill at all. Because what this has just done, in just a few days, they will have taken away, not just from people in America, but also people across our entire civilization, the forlorn and pathetic hope that there's an electoral way back, that there's a gentle, nice way back, that someone else will sort this out for the whole of our society. And this has just done away with those childish things. This has made people face the reality that our civilization, the old civilization, is over. And if you want your bloodline, your culture, your people to get through this, you have to take personal responsibility and do things, because there ain't no knight in shining armour on a big white horse going to ride to the rescue. You do it for yourself, for your family, your friends, your community. And if you do, then some of your people will get through what is going to be, in effect, a population bottleneck for 1 or 2 generations. But the other side, those who take responsibility now and do the right things now, some will still perish. Some of their descendants will still perish, but they will be the people who are the founders of the second and third and fourth generation beyond this, when the Reconquista takes place. As I say, this is in fact a wonderful God-given moment of doing away with the childish and the cowardly idea that someone else will sort it out for
Amen.
you.
Well, listen, Mr. Griffin, I'm going to wind it up there. Thanks very much for this. Let's we'll go to bed tonight and hope we wake up in a better place tomorrow. I doubt it, but thanks very much, and we'll get you on very soon again, Nick. God bless you. Okay, folks, that's all for today, but I just want to end you with this. Remember this. When we were as British people, we thought we were the big cheese. American people think the same. Take a wee lesson from Ireland, both sides, Catholic and Protestant. The Irish were conquered and subjugated for 800 years without a hope in hell. But for 800 years they suffered. You see, winning a war is not about how much damage you can inflict the enemy, it's how much you can absorb. And the Irish suffered it, sucked it up. And do you know what they've done more than anything else? They bred and they bred. They were the biggest breeders in the world at one time. And now they've managed to almost take over the north. But their birth rate, nothing else at all. The Ulster Scots, we've been persecuted here by the English, fought with the Irish for 400 years. We're still here. Why? Because we dug our heels in and said, thus far and no further. We're going to have to suffer. None of this, we're the big cheese and nobody can touch us. No, us as a people, right-wing, decent Christian people, we are going to suffer. But if you can suffer it, and as Nick said, this is not a black pill, this is a marvellous gift from God to sweep away the nonsense that so many people have believed. And this is for the people who have ears to hear, the bugle trumpeting a call to arms, and for people to rally, not in a violent way, but rallying psychologically and spiritually and physically together, because now we're going to have to face the wrath of these demented communists. Go and ask a Hungarian, go and ask a Polish person or a Czechoslovakian what it's like living under socialist domination. They'll tell you, and by the end of that conversation you'll be terrified. It's coming. There's no point in being frightened, because I'll tell you why. We have this. We have the power of God in us, and he who is in us is greater than he who is in them. The Templar order is mighty. We're all over the world. We will stand to the last man. You can be assured of it. So take great comfort. Yes, war's coming. Of course it is. It was always going to come. So get ready for it. And remember, stick close to God and you won't go far wrong. Do his fault.